So then, when did you finally say your Shahada? How did you finally say, yeah?
Well, you remember I was telling you that I had took to the streets and had gotten very active in this gang activism. I was really entrenched in it. And even though we were claiming ourselves Muslim, we were doing anything else but Islamic values or Muslim adab, Muslim manners. That wasn't what the design was. And I ultimately ended up incarcerated. I go to jail. And the first thing that I did when I got to jail, I asked and I prayed to God. I said, please, God, put me in a place where I get to understand my way of life better. And strangely enough, I was taken from one particular jail to like a ranch camp. And I stayed there for 2 weeks.
Preferences
Sent me back to the same prison, LA County Jail.
What we had to knew.
Trustee for whatever reason, but they made me a trustee, which gives you a lot more freedom. You know, you're able to work and you get better food and living conditions are a whole lot better, free phone access, and it was just a whole lot better than just being locked up most of the time. So that was a good thing, I guess. If I had to be incarcerated, I would have preferred to be under those conditions. But remind you, I did ask Allah to put me in a better place, understand my way of life better. So what happened was, when I came back as a trustee, I was diabetic and contracted diabetes like maybe 6 or 7 months before my incarceration. And I had to go to the pill module in order to get my medication online. I also wanted to let them know I'm Muslim and I do not eat pork, so don't put that on my diet. And once I saw the physician, I explained everything to him, and he looked at me with such a grimace, a look like he was very, very upset with me. And he said, well, I'll just put you where your people are. I'm like, what do you mean? Yeah, I'll just put you where your people are. You're crazy, man. And I left. The next day, I went back to work. I was working in one of the mess halls as a scullery person, washing dishes. My deputy called me and said, hey man, what's going on, man? I said, what do you mean what's going on? You have to roll it up. I'm like, roll it up for what? What did I do? You didn't do anything, but whatever you did, you got to go. Wow, for real? So they ended up sending me to a section of this jail called 2200, which is down in the basement, and it's actually called the pill module, where they can, you know, give you your meds and all that stuff, keep a watch on you medically or whatever, which never happened. But anyway, I'm locked up and I'm in a cell now. Unlike where I was before, rats in the freeway at night and guys feeding them. I'm like, well, let me take this top bunk. It's like I had heard it before. And I ran to the cell doors and I'm looking down the sally port to see what I could see, and brothers were laying prayer rugs, preparing for salat. I didn't even know how to pray. But when they racked that door open, I ran into the ranks. And the brother said, hey man, just follow me. As if he knew I didn't know. And that was the first time I'd ever made salat. That was 1991. From then on, my attraction to Islam heightened because I was informed, without being informed, that the way of life that I had been living as Muslim was not correct. So I carried that all the way into state prison and started to learn the deen then. Now, I'm gonna have to back up some because I gotten in trouble once before, like 4 or 5 years before in '86. And that caused me to go to federal prison. There was where I, Salatul Nas, Salat, taught me all of the nuance that would get me over until I was able to learn more when we broke up, and that's basically what happened. But in '91, I had digressed. I didn't come to the masjid in '86. I went back to the streets. That's what caused me to get back in trouble. So, like I'm speeding back to '91, And going finally to state prison, I was able to embrace 3 brothers that were at the prison and were Muslim on my yard. And the information and the education began. The library is so vast, it was so overwhelming. And the videos that were there and available for us to see, strangely enough, most of those videos were done right here on this property. My imam now is the imam that was in all of these tapes. And to be able to see my neighborhood as they're panning, you know, the video showing the street that I grew up on, played on, you know, ravaged and everything. It was like, Allahu Akbar. It's almost like, this is where I should have been. And when I got out in 94, I came home Muslim. And I came straight here. I came straight to Islamic Center. Home. I was here. I'm home. First thing I did is I ran into the office looking for Imam Hassan, and he wasn't here that day, but Imam he's returned to Allah in the last 6 or 7 years, but he was the first person that I saw. He was also in the videos. He was narrating most of the videos, so we became close, and I was okay for a minute. And I had lost my mom while I was in prison, 9 months before I was released, and it hurt. It was a real difficult time for me. But understanding, you know, Islam, it gives you 3 days to mourn, and then after that you have to get on about your business because your loved one is already where they're supposed to be. You have to do and get where they are. So in order to do that, you got to keep trudging. And I was able to do that. I hung in there. And when I got home, I was, I would say, embraced by my older sister. But at the same time, there was some other ulterior motives that ended up separating us and disbanding our relationship, so much so where she ended up selling the property from me and basically leaving me to my own devices. I was out in the streets for like 2.5 years, and I had reverted back to drug and alcoholism. I went into a residential Christian program for 16 months, stayed there, got clean, started back working. Started back working actually as a security guard for a nonprofit organization called Avalon Carver Community Center, here in this neighborhood still. And actually I was connected to a guy that I had went to school with in junior high school, middle school, but we became such fast friends. He was Catholic at the time, I was Catholic. I went to his house, he went to my house. His mom loved me, my mom loved him, and we're still friends to this day, regardless of who I am Islamically and who he is with regards to Catholicism. We are so close, it's just crazy. But he was one who introduced me to the executive director, at the time program director of the Avalon Carver Community Center. And they were having problems security-wise with the neighborhood. I'm already entrenched in the neighborhood. These people that were giving Avalon Carver such a problem, I knew very well. They're like bedfellows, you know what I'm saying? We were thick as thieves over here. So when I took on the position of security for that agency, all of the problems that they were having ceased. And that was 1997. I stayed in that position for 3 years, and in 2000 there was some difficulty and some people were fired at the Avalon Carver Center, and the assistant to the executive director approached me and asked if I would like to elevate my status and position with the agency and take on intake counselor position because it became vacant. Sure I do. I became the intake counselor in 2000. And it entailed doing assessments. I'm the first initial contact, other than the receptionist desk, to the program. I'm the one who delegates the files to what counselor according to the amount of clients that a counselor would have. And I had a lot of responsibility, and I took it on. I was laid off there in '05, and as the director had explained to me, he flat out just told me he couldn't pay me anymore. Really? Okay. So I left. I didn't have any problems with him. Drawed unemployment for a couple months and put my resume out at other agencies. And I ended up working for another agency called SSG. It's also called HOP SSG. This company was an assessment company. And what we did the assessment for clients that would come in and then send them to agencies that would treat.